Okay, we're going to revisit again Labour anti-Semitism and the celebrities, British celebrities. Not going to talk about that again, but things keep reality keeps intruding, and David Baddiel, who I've mentioned a few times in these videos, is he's made a little documentary, Channel 4, BBC, about his book Jews Don't Count. It's got a few interesting sort of characters in it. Stephen Fry, yeah, I don't know about this bloke. Sort of disappointed in him, and probably more so Miriam Margolius, if that's how you pronounce the name. Yeah, not really fussed by that. Um, but anyway, the central thesis is, what you call anti-Semitism doesn't count as much, but that's today in so-called progressive sort of left spaces. That's the main beef, I think. Um, but isn't that belied by what happened? The Labor anti-Semitism, the weaponised, um, mostly exaggerated, according to the empirical evidence, um, vastly exaggerated, given an academic veneer by people like Keith Carn-Harris, and the Pears Institute, which was funded by a Tory billionaire. And then there was celebrities that jumped on the bandwagon. Been through this before, Riley and Oberman, a few others. And it was used, this largely uh, fabricated, that's the word, wildly exaggerated, maybe a better word, was used to destroy any hope of even a mildly socialist government. And the effects of austerity and Toryism and rampant just looting of the treasury by them, and the brutalisation of the underclass, massive problems, food banks, like fictionalised in I, Daniel Blake. So the central thesis is just nonsense. I mean, you can say it's weaponised, but Baddiel was part of this, and he's haute bourgeoisie, as he described himself. Very, very rich family. Oberman, Riley, Fry, all very rich people. And they managed to save their money, um, as well as the Gentile elites. They managed to hold on to their precious money, while the mostly Gentile population underclass suffered severely. A lot of the Orthodox Jews, part of that underclass, but the assimilated bourgeois folks like Baddiel, Riley, Stephen Fry, Oberman, they kept their money, and that was to the detriment of literally millions of people, and a lot of people are suffering because of that. So it's really self-indulgent, really just sort of a grotesque. It's a grotesque thing. Um, I mean, I'm watching it from afar, but with the internet, you get get a decent grip on what's going on overseas now at the ground level sometimes, and it's an obscenity. It's got this rich celebrity guy with a pineapple head, the racist, the blackface. Baddiel, it's really sinister. And that's the only way you can describe it. And so I'm disappointed a little bit in Fry, probably more in Margolius. I said I was disappointed in Riley, probably because she is smart. Um, she's smarter than me, which is a rarity. And yeah, but I do expect her to have a sadistic streak. She's exactly the sort of person who would have a sadistic streak. So I'm not hating on her for that because from her background and sort of yeah, she would have it. She'd expect it because that's how they are. They live and we sleep. We sleep. They're hideous monsters, bourgeois monsters that these people are. Sort of reptile-like creatures, and yeah, Tories and sort of Nazis and that Judeo-Nazis, and so she Riley has a sadistic streak. Oberyn has one as well. That's probably the bourgeois sort of upbringing. She's got at least some sort of generic liberal politics of poor old Tracy. Um, Riley has none at all except for the Nazi stuff. Um, yeah, I think there's a few theories of what's going on there. I won't expand on that because I was going to leave this alone. But Baddiel, he's a very self-indulgent sort of person. Disappointing. He's not very smart. I've seen him on 8 out of 10 that does countdown. His efforts are very poor. He's just obsessed with his own family. He thinks his family's incredibly interesting. Maybe they're thinking my family is a lot more interesting than his in an anthropological sense. Oh boy. Yeah. I think the London bourgeois Jewish assimilated people are not as interesting as the sort of rich white trash that I came from, that I'm related to. make a thing. He did a show. Baddiel did. I'll show about his family. I don't know whether my family would be on a stage show. Extended family, both sides. Oh, it's pretty grim. And we could make one about me. Yeah, I mean, my father's side was worse. Oh, I can't go into too many details about that because they'll use that against me. But such a thing. And I've got to say that anti-Semitic feelings are probably just a natural consequence of Jewish financial strength, Jewish political control, which is exaggerated. I mean, Soros, I think, is exaggerated. I sort of have a soft spot for George. I don't know why. I think his philosophical leanings and his earlier thing. What was that school? I've forgotten that. I might do a video on Soros and things. I think he's exaggerated. The Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefellers were much more evil than old George. It's pretty evil. George, every billionaire is evil. Musk is evil, but not too bad. There are much worse people than Musk and Soros. But the Baddiel, the haute bourgeoisie, not very dumb man. Not the sort of person who would thrive in a meritocracy, I don't think. But he has connections, and people have connections. Riley is very smart. She's a very smart woman. She got blessed with looks as well. Her mother's ugly, bush pig, ugly woman. How did that happen? And she's sort of fading a bit, baggy around the eyes and a bit ugly now. Sort of going downhill. Poor old Tracy Overman. She's very talented. I did say she was a very good actress. And she's got the hook nose, but she's fairly attractive too, and fairly talented. Eddie Marsan's a pretty good actor. They were both good in Ridley Road, which I enjoyed. There's a review there. But Baddiel, I don't think he's not very funny. Baddiel. I did mention the 1998 sort of soccer World Cup show. That wasn't too bad, but he had help. He's a very underwhelming sort of individual, David Baddiel, and pretty much a good example of the non-meritocracy. A very ordinary Jewish man, not very attractive Jewish man, using his connections to attain a bit of fame and a comfortable millionaire lifestyle. And it's not good. It's not good. Not good at all. It's not good at all while people are going hungry, and people had to go hungry because of their intervention. Partly. I don't know. Corbyn is weak. I've said before, Corbyn is weak. But going back to the point, I mean, when you look at where Jews live and the income brackets, the statistics, Rich List, Forbes, um, BRW, Business Review Weekly in Australia, the Rich Lists, and where the synagogues are and the real estate prices there, this is a very privileged group. That's reality, and that does engender some anti-Semitism. The French left is quite anti-Semitic. The left, modern left, so-called left, deny it, but I think they're strong anti-Semitic. Marx was. Proudhon, the Bakunin, both of them anarchists. Long hostility towards Jews as a middleman minority, towards their religion, and justifiably so. People, it's an evil religion, very similar to Islam, which is the most evil ideology in human history. And Judaism is very similar to that. Most of Islam is plagiarized from Judaism. Muhammad, the false prophet, on Melier's Testament, page 49. A good work for Baddiel to read. Page 49, the false prophet Muhammad, most evil man, along with Jesus in history. Pure evil. And Judaism is a wicked, evil religion. When you read, the true history of it, it's sick, evil, very sick, evil religion. So yeah, that's why probably Baddiel and Riley, I think, are a bit more disappointing than the devout. It's mostly the devout pushing it. Gillian Lazarus, the ugly, very ugly woman. Keith Kahn Harris, I thought he was, he's a reform. He's a slobbering sort of reform, very lowly rated by Zionists, hated the reform, but they still stick with them. Very sad, weak people, Reform Jews. In regards to Israel, they're lapdogs of the Orthodox. So it's just a natural consequence of a very rich and powerful minority, the long history of exploiting the host populations, being unpopular, and there's reasons why people are unpopular. My people don't like the English, sort of 1/4 Irish and sort of mostly Scottish. People don't like the English, and there's just a natural justifiable reason behind that. And people don't like Muslims for obvious reasons, and people do not like Jews for, I think, rational reasons. I always say if you don't like someone for rational reasons, that's okay. So Israeli settler, Aaron Gross, Wrong on Twitter, he's quite a smart guy. He's a really smart guy, and he says, he's he has a fairly decent opinion on that. You don't have to like people. You don't have to like everyone. It's not, Cuddle a Muslim, cuddle a Jew, cuddle a white person, cuddle a black person. You're going to dislike people for various reasons, and I say it's always, as long as it's rational, as long as there's some sort of rational basis for it. With Palestinians, of course they have a right to be anti-Semitic. And they have an absolute right because their tormentors are Jews, and that's just justifiable and normal. They get sort of scolded for that, and pretty easy for Western liberals to be high and mighty, sanctimonious about that sort of thing. But I'm going to see if I can find this Baddiel thing, watch the whole thing. I've only watched the trailer. I'm making a preemptive strike. Very, very, I don't know, Stephen Fry, I don't know about him. And Mongolia is disappointing to sort of indulging in that sort of nonsense. From David Baddiel, a self-indulgent person who is responsible for a lot of trouble. A lot of people are suffering because of these people, in part, and I have no sympathy for them whatever. I have no sympathy for Baddiel. I don't care. Suck it up.